to say we're live. We're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another jam-packed edition of David Lee Madison's The End of the Night, brought to you by none other than Film Hub. Film Hub is a wonderful, wonderful resource for independent filmmakers out there to get your films on several platforms. They're really, really easy to work with. If you're an independent filmmaker and you want to get wide-scale distribution, reach out to Film Hub and see what magic they could work for you and your films.
And also brought to you by StreamYard. People ask us all the time how we make our shows so fun and look so great. That would be StreamYard. Check them out. They have a free trial for you all.
Mr. Ridgely, how the hell are you? I see your whole background is taken down. You're bare bones tonight. Why is that the case?
Well, that's because we're moving into our new home on Friday, and we've been humping for the past week or so.
Now, earlier we do a little test before the show to make sure all the bugs are worked out, and Joe asked me if I knew anything about those really true Art Deco sconce lamps behind him. And sadly, they're not in my wheelhouse. But I know lots and lots of people watch this show. Excuse me. And hi, Sean. I hope you're well, brother. You look in your mail. You should be getting some tomorrow, my friend. Hi, Ken. I hope you're well. And he was asking me if I knew anything about those cool Art Deco sconce lamps. So if anybody's watching tonight wants to drop a comment or send Joe an IM with any knowledge on those cool lights, that would be awesome.
It really would. There is no maker's mark, no information whatsoever. My wife and I went thrifting one day and thought they were cool as heck. They have a really old kind of plug on them as well. I'm not sure if they were like European or something at one time and converted, or hey, you know what? $10 a piece. We took them.
They're really cool. You know what they look like? They look like the light fixtures that are on the side walls of old movie theaters. So that's kind of the vibe I get. CJ, I see all the pictures you're posting. You're out at the convention and hanging out with Gabe and the Indie Escape guys. Oh, Sean made him. Indie Escape guys are out having a blast. Do you have? Did you grab any photos of those guys?
I do. I actually have a picture of Gabe and CJ at. CJ, you got to remember you got to remind me what the name of the con was. I totally. But he. Also
I think they're at Dallas, maybe Dallas CryptCon, maybe.
It could be. Let's see if he.
I wonder if that's the one that Brian, our intrepid wingnut, who's on the show all the time, Brian O'Halloran, was at a show with Jeff this weekend. I wonder if that was the show. I wonder if that's the one.
I don't think that was. Brian.
Brian's in Cincinnati.
Yeah, Brian.
Brian's in Cincinnati.
Was supposed to be at this one originally, and something.
Yeah, no, I think this is one. Another friend of our shows, David Howard Thornton, might have been at this one.
Yes, him and drawing a blank right now. The director and writer,
Damien Leone. Damien
was there as well. If I may, CJ sent me, or did you say the name? Just got back from Texas Fright. That's what it was. I had the pleasure of getting to know my Indie Escape brother, Gabe. What an awesome guy. This gentleman knows a lot of movies. And he sent me a clip. Let me play that real fast.
Sweet.
And here we go.
This is Jonathan Breck, and you're watching The Indie Escape.
Wow, that was cool. Jonathan Breck, who's known in the horror community as the Creep in the great Jeepers Creepers trilogy. So, but that was cool, CJ. That was awesome. They're out having a good time. Sadly, I don't know. I have a couple convention invites. I have one in October, and I have one in November. But I don't know. I'm still a little wacky about the COVID thing, Joe. Do you think I should be, or you think I shouldn't be?
I don't know. With the Delta variant and everything, and just because you've got the shot doesn't mean that you can't get it. Doesn't mean you can't transmit it.
Yeah, I know. I'm weird. I don't want to be a stick in the mud, but it's also a little different when you're somebody who's at the convention as a guest, because you actually greet literally hundreds and hundreds of people over the course of the weekend, instead of somebody who's an attendee who's walking through, can go out and get air and not shake hands and take pictures over and over again, which is really, as somebody who's going to the convention as a guest, why, I don't want to take pictures with somebody who wants to take a picture with me with a mask on. It's just, it's just not, I don't know. I don't feel right about that kind of stuff. If somebody's nice enough to actually want to take a picture with me, the last thing I want to be is a schmuck and stand there with a mask on.
From what I'm seeing, they're not wearing masks in the pictures.
Oh, okay.
And they're not using the dividers either.
You know what's funny? A dear friend of mine had a convention in Pittsburgh, and he was really smart. He made a giant doll box, like an action figure box, and the celebrities stood inside the doll box, and the fans were like presenting like the doll box as like a toy.
That's cool.
And that was a really cool way to take a picture with the celebrities who were at the show and try to keep people safe. But it's weird. I don't know. I want to go and I want to see everybody. I just don't want to possibly get somebody else sick, because who knows if I'm a carrier. Even though I'm even though I've been vaccinated, I don't know. I can Photoshop your face over them. Oh, that would be pretty cool. He hasn't said about having that for sci-fi in the. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's Kenneth Bouchard, who has a wonderful show too. He's talking about the show that I'm supposed to be doing in Altoona, Pennsylvania, called Sci-Fi in the Valley Con. It would be cool if he did, but we'll see what happens. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now, and who the hell knows what the hell's going on. Is our beloved co-host and just living legend in his own mind, Scott Schiaffo, in the green room?
I believe he is.
Without further ado, let's welcome our lovely co-host, our dear friend, top dog, big cheese, big bow wow, whatever the hell you want to call him, Mr. Grunkle Scott Schiaffo, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
Grunkle Scott.
Some intro there. Now, did you say I'm a legend in my own mind?
Yes.
Yes. I just wanted to be sure I got the insult properly.
Listen, you got the insult. It was a very minor insult, a little tiny one, but then you got 500 things to blow your ego out of proportion. So I want to keep you in check. You get a little insult.
That's the rationale for the insult?
The little insult, the little tiny insult, and then 500 really nice things. Because if I just said the nice things, you probably wouldn't have believed them.
How about, here's my awesome co-host.
Okay, I could go that. I can go in that direction next
There you
time.
go.
Hi. Oh, not me. Okay.
By the way, you were awesome the other night. And this is all kidding aside. I love you, Scott. You were awesome on Francie's show the other night. Did you have fun on that show?
It's hard. It's impossible not to, because they're so enthusiastic, and that they really get a super big kick out of films and music and whoever the guests may be from whatever world they're from. They get so jazzed that you have a great time, man. Make you feel like $1 million.
Yeah, it was really just a great interview. You were funny, and those guys. Joe, did you ever listen to the Francie and Friends show?
I don't believe I have.
It's just it's not a visual show. It's just like a blog talk radio show, and I did it for the first time I think over a dozen years ago. And they get really, really wonderful guests. And it's literally just like a circus of chicanery. And it's just a fun show. And Scott was on, I guess it was like 2 nights ago. And I popped on for just a minute because Francie asked me to say hello to Scott. And I hate when hosts do that. It makes me feel bad because I never want to step on this is Scott's episode. You know, what the hell does he want me on for? So she's like, come on, say hello. I was like, all right, I just wanted to say hello. Scott's awesome. I told him how great he was, and I got off right away. So Scott, I apologize. I didn't mean to blow smoke up your hiney on that episode.
Oh, you didn't blow smoke up my butt on that episode. That was wonderful. I didn't say that.
I know. I said
that was really, really wonderful.
No, that was fun. So, what's going on with you, Mr. Schiaffo? You have any Clerks 3 news you want to share with us?
Oh, my God.
I thought maybe I threw him a curveball and he would just forget. I'm like, yeah, this happened. Yeah.
No, the only Clerks 3 stuff I have is what everybody has at this point, which is it's going into post. Kevin's very fast with the editing, usually. And I think they're looking at very early 2022, very early. And there's sort of a festival that's near and dear to the Clerks World heart in that time of year. So maybe it's going to be at that. Maybe, I don't know.
And that wouldn't be the Cannes Film Festival, would it?
No, Sundance.
Ah, Sundance. I thought Cannes was where they had their big moment.
No, Sundance is where it actually won, like a prize, blew everybody's mind. And then it went to Cannes. And actually, Clerks 2 had like a standing O at Cannes.
Oh,
But,
sweet.
The first Clerks, I'm not sure what the Clerks got. The first Clerks got something at Cannes because he always talks about the IMDb boat, which at that time wasn't really the IMDb. It was Miramax, Pulp Fiction, Clerks, and one other Miramax film. And later on, he says a funny story about how they all got billed for that boat. Like the big bill came, it had to be taken out of their royalties.
Now, before we bring a genre icon, literally a genre legend onto our show tonight, he's actually never did The End of the Night before. He was on the other little gig that we used to do. I don't.
A few times, yes.
I'm forgetting the name now.
and it was fun because the original host backed out a couple of times, and Jason Buterin
Had to step in.
filled in,
Yeah.
and he knows these guys, so it was really freaking cool.
That's awesome. We'll have Mr. Gower on in just a moment. Before we have Andre on, I wanted to wish another guest who's on the show all the time, and even though she's my arch nemesis, I wanted to wish Miss Tiffany Shepis a very happy birthday. For 60, she looks fantastic. I'll give her that. But I really just wanted to wish her a happy birthday. I hope she had a wonderful weekend. She deserves it. She does a lot of wonderful things for the things that she's passionate about. And all kidding aside, Miss Shepis, happy birthday from us here at the end of the night. Without further ado, let's bring up our guest for tonight. You can know him from literally dozens of films and TV shows. I am the biggest Monster Squad nerd on the face of the earth. So I loved him in the Monster Squad. And let's and another thing before we have him on, I want to actually thank the Lord above. I never want to be corny on the show, but I want to thank him for this being possible. Because Andre had, I'll let him tell you, but he had a terrible health, just a dramatic thing happened to him. But we are so honored and happy that he could be joining us tonight and that he's up and running again. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Andre Gower.
Oh, and you forgot, and he's the whole reason I won't play tennis.
Yes, he's the whole reason that Mr. Ridgely will not play tennis. Andre, how are you, my friend?
Pretty good. I mean, considering it's nice to be able to come back and chat with you guys for sure. And tennis is not tennis is okay, Joe. It's I have
No,
not played.
no,
I
but
haven't
not on
played
the tennis
since
court.
either, so I might be officially turning into the pickleball player next year. I might have to. I might have to knock it down a notch, but we'll see in a couple months. They say you get your strength and your energy and your vigor back, but we'll see.
So, Andre,
hey, it's good to be here. I'm glad to get to hang out and chat again.
you know what's so funny? It was, and it's not. And when I say funny, you know what I mean. It was, I was in Saratoga, New York, and word came over on the internet what had happened, and I was saddened and shocked, and I was like, Andre's so young and so vibrant and such great shape. How the hell does things like this happen? Like Kevin Smith was a big schlob and he had a heart attack, and we understand that happens. How does this happen to a young, vital guy like you?
I, those are good questions.
Just the roll of the dice, right?
Honestly, when I was, even going through it, I was like, well, wait a minute. Now do Kevin Smith and I get to like do a show together? Like we have we have our own TV show. Call it like the Heart Attack Express or something. Or
well, you see, I have to get a hold of Brian Hope Weiss then, and he can hook you up because he did Kevin's Heart Attack special.
Yeah,
so
I know Brian very well, actually. They're like the Stent Brothers or something. I don't know. It's I don't know. Ask questions. Like it's feel free. Like I don't know how. I mean, I do know how it happened. I know the biology of it and actually what went down, I think. But, everybody's asked that kind of same question. And I've always been active, always been athletic. I've always been, fairly fit and in shape. My lifestyle is not as fun as a lot of other people's are. Like I don't smoke. I don't use, like I barely drink. And I'm always active, and I eat pretty well. I eat really clean and pretty healthy. I'm not a super vegan or, super keto or pescatarian or anything like that. But, compared to probably the majority of folks out there, I'm probably in the top 10% of what I eat. And, that's lifestyle. Those are the choices that you have control over. And and you can choose whichever way you want to go with that and be diligent or conscientious of it. And when it comes down to stuff like this, I think lifestyle is super important. But no matter how important it is, it's secondary to genetics, and it's which sucks because you don't have any control over that. And I'm sort of behind the 8 ball, so to speak, on both sides of my family for issues of this nature. And my dad had issues. It's not what took him out, but my dad actually had a heart attack when he was 48. And according to the script, I did too. And that's not what ended up taking him out, but it was a factor in his life. And then other people on kind of both sides of my genetic flow chart, that's a thing. And I think a little bit of my lifestyle and just me being active and kind of how I approach things like that are sort of because of that. I knew those are issues that you should always watch out for or be cognizant of or be aware of. But we're all young, and we never think of that stuff when we're young, unless you are unfortunate enough to be a young person and deal with something like that, which is awful. And I've talked to a handful of people like, oh, I had a heart attack when I was 25. I was like, that's insane. And it's something now that has happened. For those people that don't know, on July 3rd, I was playing tennis, as Joe knows, and I started feeling a little off. Ironically, a handful of times all year that I'd gone to play tennis, I had gotten a little dehydrated, or, a little low blood sugar, and I thought this was just another bout of that. And it usually passes in about 5 minutes. So I took myself out and just kind of relaxed, and it didn't get better. It kind of changed and got worse, and it just wouldn't fix itself. And after a few minutes, I realized something was not the same. And luckily, I was with my buddy Mike, and who used to be a volunteer EMT, in Phoenix. Like, he used to work with the fire department and work in hospitals as just as a side gig, because he enjoyed it and was going, and he was doing that with his life, and he was checking on me, and I was just I took myself off at the court, and I just kind of was sat down on the side and was trying to get, feel a little bit better and get my blood sugar back up, or, get some, fluids in me. And it just didn't get any better. And it started to get not worse, but not better, and just weirder. And
did you at any point take your own pulse?
I was trying to, in the first couple of minutes, because I sat on the side of the court and kind of was laying around, and I just couldn't get comfortable, right? And my rate wasn't racing at that time too much, but it was just kind of up. The problem was I had been playing tennis for about 40 minutes, and so
you were up.
I'm up anyway,
right?
And after 8, 9, 10 minutes of just trying to chill out and get back to center, that rate kind of stayed at the same, which was kind of notifies you that something's up.
Right.
And another thing that was a weird indicator is after about a minute or two, taking myself out, I just flop sweated and did this dump of sweat that is almost taxing in itself. And I had been playing for 40 minutes, so I was drenched in it. This is a whole other thing. I mean, I just puddled, and then I started, my hands and feet were tingly, and I saw kind of these weird colors when I was kind of rolling around, and it actually got a little leveled out after a few minutes, and I kind of sat up, and I was leaning on the bench, and I finally sat up on the bench and was like, okay, power through this BS and get back to playing, because Mike and Greg are still hitting balls, and I want to get out there and hit. And Mike checked on me about every minute or two, and he came over to me when I was finally sitting up, and he's like, oh, you're sitting up, you're feeling better. And I was like, he asked me how it was, and I said, I'm honestly trying to figure out if I'm having a heart attack or not. And then Mike went into no BS mode and was like, seriously? I said, yeah, I just don't know. Because I didn't have, kind of the, I don't want to say a cliche, but the stereotypical kind of crushing pressure or, the pain in the left arm thing. But all I had was I had a little stripe of discomfort up by my collarbone that went across just underneath my throat area. And then every 10 seconds or so, there'd be this little pulse of discomfort down both arms. And I realized that this was not good. And according to Mike, I started looking worse at this point. And I was getting a little gray. And he came over and checked on me, and he couldn't find a pulse anywhere. And he checked everywhere. And he's like, dude, your BP's way down, but he's like, we're out of here. Let's go. And I was like, yeah, I think you're right. Let's get out of here and go somewhere. And so thanks to Mike and Greg, I got up and we walked outside for a minute. Mike got our stuff and we walked out to his car. And as I was moving around, I started feeling like I was going downhill a little bit, and it just wasn't good. And we ended up, I jumped in Mike's car, and we were like, okay, where do we want to go? And we always joke, it's like, well, let's go to our taco place real quick and have lunch, and then then we'll go get this checked out, because we totally probably would have. And we said, hey, look, there's a new kind of it's very nice, a little swanky ER type urgent care that's down the block, and that was the closest place. I was like, let's just go there because it's somewhere, and we know it and it's close. And we got in there, and I was in there for just a minute or two, and they finally got told them what's going on, what we think, and I was getting in worse shape now, and I was shaking really bad because I was freezing, because I was drenched, but I was also cold, and I started to shake side, which was weird, and they finally got the leads on me, and while they're doing that, the doctor said, "I'll be back in a minute," and he turned around the corner and came back, and the monitor was up, and the leads were working, and I knew I was in trouble because his jaw dropped and he stopped, and his face said, "Oh shit," and I said, "Oh shit," and he goes, "Okay, you can't stay here. I've got to get you out of here." I said, "Okay," and he said, "You're actively having a heart attack right now, and you're throwing ST elevations, which is what you see on the strip." And one of the nurses, he was like, "He's got tombstones?" I was like, and I know what that is. I watch enough House and ER. I know what I know what an ST elevation is. And then they started working really frantic, and that doctor was barking out orders. And he came up to me, and they started throwing lines in me and pushing meds, and put the nitro paste on me. Then they put the defibrillator pads on me in case they need it. And then I knew I was in trouble. Like, oh no. And but I was still awake. I was conscious, and I was there the whole time. And I was trying to stay calm. And he said, "Look, I've got to get you out of here. Where do you want to go?" I was like, "Well, the big hospital's like right down the street, right?" He's like, "Yeah, good call." And he goes, "So the ambulance is on its way. To be here in a minute. We get you, and then they got to take you there because we've called ahead. They know a STEMI is on its way. That's their new kind of protocol. A STEMI is a ST elevation myocardial infarction, which is a heart attack. And they called ahead, and they were waiting for me. So they threw me in an ambulance and jammed me up about 1.5 miles, 2 miles up the road. And I swear she did a power slide, and I just kind of shot out the back because everything was going so fast. And I was in that ER for not too long, and that crew was working on me. And I love the fact that, they have this whole system in place for exactly what was happening. And the cath lab team was there waiting for me when I arrived. The ER crew has to do what they do for a few minutes. And then the next thing I knew, I'm flying down a hallway and getting in an elevator to go up to the cath lab. And they throw me in there, and there's no, "Hey, how's it going?" I mean, it's just switch tables, get you in there, and now you're getting poked, and all of a sudden the guy is, shaving my groin area and throwing 2 lines in my femoral artery and femoral vein. And once I switched to that table, I think within 3 minutes they had the lines in, and the surgeon was looking at what, the pictures he was seeing, and then he came in and started working on me. Through the, with the angioplasty, tools and the wires, and went in there. And what had happened was apparently I had my right coronary artery ruptured. And when that happens, your body responds by clotting. And so this clot, either there was a clot in there, and the new clot started growing. It grew so big that it closed off it grew so big that it cork stopped that artery and blocked it 100%. Oof. And so that's no bueno. And for too long of a time, the right side of my heart, not the blood in your chambers of your heart, but the blood that's feeding your heart muscle, had no flow. And that's not a good thing. But he went in there, got it, ballooned open the blockage. It started to flow, but then that caused another the blood clot released when you did that. And I didn't know that until after the fact, but then I thought back, I sensed when that happened because the room tone changed and they had to switch gears, and then he had to go and hunt for that and pull it out before it went somewhere else and lodged and caused another problem on its own. And they did that and fixed that, got the clot out, was still in there. And then I went into VTAC, which is ventricular tachycardia. And, your kind of lower chambers are just doing this. And they fixed that with some meds. And I remember that conversation. And because I'm talking to the nurse here, and she's telling me what's going on. I'm asking this guy questions, and and you've got this big camera on your chest, and you're going through this ordeal, and it's happening very fast. And then they put the stent in, and in a few minutes, it was all over. And at that point, like, you're done and you're completely whacked out and you're full of meds. And, but then he showed me like the whole video of what went down and what the problem was. And then I was asking questions, and the nurse, he showed me my clot, like they'd actually pulled the clot and he put it on a piece of gauze and showed it. And, I was like, I'm not like really an expert on coronary clots. Is that a good one? Did I do good? And then he looked at me, he's like, dude, this is a pretty big fucking clot. And he's like, you were completely blocked. And I was like, so everything's good now? Like, we got in here in time? He goes, and the surgeon was telling me, he's like, you got in here in time, and I'm going to go and finish up over here. And I asked too late, like a minute late, I asked the nurse if I could keep my clot, because I wanted to keep that. So all this time I'm being very Andre, and I was like, hey, can I have that? I was like, because I'll totally like keep that and like travel around with it and like show people. It's really cool. And maybe the clot will get like its own podcast or something. And,
Clotcast.
I don't know. Yeah, it's called Clotcast. Yeah. And he was like, oh, I just threw it out. So I was like, oh, okay. And then, you're just kind of whacked out and you're going through this whole experience, but I'm still trying to engage and find out what's going on and what's going to happen. And, at that time you're kind of done. And, he came up to me and he goes, look, this was, that was pretty serious. It was, this is what we do. Wolfman's got clots. Yes. You, Taryn. Awesome. And, I said, we got everything in time, like any other. He's like, we got it in time, but if you would, and then the surgeon had told my friend and my family stuff that had arrived after that. It said you had about 10 minutes to spare. Like, if we hadn't gotten in when we got in and fixed it, 10 minutes more would have been curtains.
Now, leading up to the day that it happened, did you have any signs? Was anything out of whack? Did you not feel well, or everything was fine?
Well, ironically, leading up to the time that it happened, for the 60 days prior to that, I had actually been working out and eating really well. And for the 30 days prior, I'd actually done this whole Instagram challenge with my friends on Instagram as an activity thing. And it wasn't like a fitness challenge or a weight bench press, competition or anything, but I was like, hey, everybody, I'm for the next 30 days, every day I'm doing something. I'm being active. Do it with me, because you'll keep me honest and I won't cheat. And I'll inspire you to just get up and do a plank or walk around the block, for 5 minutes or something, or, go for a 5-mile run, whatever it is that you do, just do something every day with me and just get moving, just be a little active. And I had, hundreds of people follow me and participate and post their own videos of them working out or going for a walk or, just getting up and doing some knee bends. And I'd been there for 30 days. And the 30th day was 2 days before my heart attack. So I don't know. And I was doing this workout and this fitness kind of thing for a reason, because the very next week I was supposed to fly to Texas to be the lead in a feature film that my friend was making. And so I was trying to get a little bit, camera ready, and I was, that was sort of the goal. It was overall, helpful and healthy, but I was doing it for a purpose, because I wanted to not look like garbage on camera and do this feature. And I was really looking forward to it. For my producer friend, Chris, and Derek Johnson, the director. And it would have been fun to go do this movie in East Texas for like 3 weeks. That obviously didn't happen. I wasn't able to do that, and that sucks. But they made the movie. It was good, and I hope everybody enjoys it when it comes out and they release it. But Dave, you asked, leading up. That's what I was doing for 2 months leading up to that. It wasn't like I was laying around and smoking 2 packs a day and eating popcorn. I was literally as healthy and disciplined as I was all year in those last 2 months. So I don't know if that caused it, but a lot of people have actually put their 2 cents in and said doing that, we think helped you get through that Saturday morning. So, I'll go with that.
Now, Scott, I know you have. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Scott. You
explained that it was there was no true triggering event that there was genetics involved? The doctor explained it to you in that way, that he believes it was genetics involved, because that is the thing, like you said, exactly the way you said it, which is, I know people who live like saints, and because of genetics, they've had issues.
Yeah,
And you got people smoke a pack a day in their 90s,
that's right.
no issues.
That's right.
It's just craziness.
Yeah, lifestyle is important, but it's secondary to your genetics. For anything. Whether it's cardiovascular or liver disease or gout. It's all this stuff is you're predisposed. I happen to be predisposed on both sides of my family a little bit, and that's sort of like that's sort of why I it's important to me to be active and eat decent. Plus, I enjoy it.
Right.
I also, I hadn't been as prudent in the last 5 or 6 years of getting everything specifically checked or getting a lot of, checkups as you probably should when you're over 40, and especially when you get to 45-ish. It had just I had been, making a documentary. I had been on the road. I had been doing lots of things. You just didn't, kind of take that time. Had that, even if I had got stuff checked out, I don't know if it would have, what would have happened if it had solved it or prevented it. I just don't know. But it is, I don't want to be like a cautionary tale. I just want to be a motivating tale in that, kind of my, it's not my new message. I've always kind of said it, but, health is important, getting checked out, knowing how things work and how they don't work. And if something's wrong, go get it checked out. It's okay to go to the doctor. It's okay to go to the dentist. A lot of people don't know that, dental health is really important to a lot of other health.
To your heart.
It starts there. It's very important in your heart, and that could have been a factor, over time. Who knows? But Scott, to answer your question, my problem on that day was my right coronary artery. But I also have an issue with my LAD, which is what jumped up and bit Kevin. So they call it the widowmaker. So I have to monitor that one because it's apparently 50% occluded at the moment. And whether that was a gradual thing over time or all of a sudden those things just ended up going like that, I just don't know.
And the genetics,
yeah.
No, I would say with the genetics, it's similar to Kevin. Kevin's lifestyle wasn't great for years, but for the eating, he had been overweight for many years, and he even smoked. But he had genetics not on his side. His dad had a lot of heart issues, and he lost them pretty young. So Kevin knew that was in the background too. So
everything's connected. If it's in or on your body, it's all part of the same thing. And that's interesting here about because I followed Kevin's whole thing, and I was worried about it today. And I love the fact that he he gave credit to everybody that helped him out, and he had a few minutes like I did. So I definitely related after my experience. And I love seeing when Kevin, posts his walks at Runyon Canyon, because I walk Runyon Canyon myself, and
that's great.
I'm good, and you might not be one day, and so it's it's okay to go to the doctor. It's okay to go to the dentist. It's actually not just okay; it's almost necessary, literally. And kind of like the new message is for as men of a certain age and in a certain generation, we sit around and go, oh, my back's hurting, and I'll give it a week and see if it gets better. It's like, if it doesn't get better, coming over in a day or two, you might want to get it looked at. It could be anything. If you're feeling weird, like breathing or headaches or heart issues, or you think it is, just go get it looked at. What's it cost you? It cost you a couple hours, maybe, an afternoon. And kind of like the new kind of slogan that I like, that I throw out is, it's better to be wrong than too late. And just doesn't cost you much to get checked out, and just annual stuff and regular stuff can go a long way.
I think a lot of men are scared to go to the doctor, to be honest with you, to find out that they're unhealthy. But with that being said, it's better to find out that you're unhealthy early, because then you still have a chance to fix it, because it's better.
Because even little improvements, go a long way, and the earlier
absolutely
the better. You're right. You're absolutely right.
With that being said, Joe, the comments are filling up the board. Do you want to put some up so that we can let Andre know how everybody is feeling?
Absolutely. Brandon says, "This all was wild and scary, Andre. Glad you came out this okay. You're definitely meant to still be here on Earth. Got more things to do here." Brandon.
Oh, that's thank you, Brandon. Yeah, people ask, we kind of went over what happened, and then kind of like after the fact, it's just weird stuff to think about. And I sum it up to where there was a massive amount of experience that happened in a very short amount of time, and you're still dealing with it kind of mentally and emotionally and psychologically, physically. Even though I made it out, from the room that day, it's not over. I'm not 100%. I've still got to watch some things. I've still got to make sure that, and this actually, you go through something like this, as Kevin documented, more than I have, mostly with his experience, it takes a long time to get through something like this, even when you get through the initial kind of critical stage, that's the first kind of step. And if you're fortunate enough to get out of that, you can, but then you're on this next phase. And
Do you have, how about meds? Are there aftercare meds? Because I know initially for me, I had a much longer heart saga. I didn't have a heart attack. I had almost 2 back-to-back episodes of congestive heart failure,
oh man,
which is a whole other nightmare than heart attacks. But I could totally identify with heart issues, and I was a heart patient for years, unfortunately, and then it stabilized. But I'm forgetting where I'm going with this. I'm sorry.
No, you asked about just asked about kind of like maintenance meds or
Right, because I'm on a number of things, but I have an arrhythmia problem. I have an ICD. I have the onboard defibrillator. My heart gets weird. I get blasted, and I got many blasts, but that was years ago. But you're probably on some type of blood thinner, even if it's just aspirin, right?
I am, and one of the things that we were unsure of, and it took about a day and a half once I was in the ICU, is how much damage was done to heart muscle, output and going forward, and ability for your heart to do its job. And the problem, I had it on the right coronary artery, which is on the right side of your heart, and that's where your SA node is, which is the bundle of fibers that gets the initial electrical signal from your brain to actually beat. So that your heartbeat starts on your right, and then it goes across your heart, and that's how it works. Having the ischemia there, with no blood flow to that right side, we didn't know how much damage or if any damage was done to that SA node. Then you're in real trouble.
They almost shut my SA node off and let the ICD run it. That's how touch and go it was for me. But I know exactly what that is.
Yeah, and so we didn't know. Luckily, I have some heart muscle damage on my interior wall. Luckily, it's minimal. And I didn't have to leave with a permanent pacemaker, which was unknown for about a day or a day and a half.
That's really fantastic, actually.
That was my goal once I got into the ICU, and you have very small. Yes, it is ICU, but I actually got very comfortable in that ICU, and I didn't really want to leave. I was like, "Are you sure you want me to leave?" But yeah, so I had the temporary pacemaker in for the first day and a half, and that's a weird thing because I have a low rate anyway. My resting rate is very strong, and
well, if you're athletic and you're active, that's usually the case. You'll have a very low resting rate, which is great.
I've had since I was a kid.
Yeah,
and even after the event, it was low, but it was low because I had gone through the trauma, but it was low because it normally is low. But they had me paced higher than what my normal was, so I was like the pacer was doing everything for that whole first night, and I was like, I can't sleep, this thing's banging me, and
I could relate to that too. That's no fun. It's no fun when
it's no fun, it's not comfortable, you can't relax, and you're scared shitless for a little bit, and you just you're not sure. But I literally had a talk with myself, and you don't really move. Like if you've been in the ICU after that, you can't move because you got the lines in your leg, and you can't turn over, you can't get comfortable, you can't bend your knees, you can't do anything. You just kind of stare at the ceiling. And I just kind of had a talk with myself, and was having a talk with my heart, and said, all right, gang, We are not leaving here with a pacemaker, so get your shit together and relax, breathe, enjoy this, fresh O2 that you got. I even asked them to crank it up, and they would crank it up on me. And get through this, and let's not leave with the pacemaker. That was the thing I was really, really worried about, because I just didn't know how much damage was done.
Right.
And I think, after, I left and you kind of reconcile all this, there was probably 3 outcomes that was going to happen here. One is the most optimal, where you have this event, you have some damage, you get it fixed, you improve enough that you can leave and not have a pacemaker. The other option is you have this event, you have quite a lot of damage, you leave with a lot of medication, and you have this issue, and you have a whole other world waiting for you when you walk out of here. And then the other possible outcome, like I said, I narrowed it down to 3, was you don't leave that place. And if I hadn't gotten into the cath lab and those ER, that they did great work, I wouldn't have. So of the 3 possible outcomes that I kind of reconciled were the options, I definitely got the most optimal result, even though it's not over. I've got heart muscle damage, I've got issues with my other one, I have a stent, I've got to be on medication. To answer your question, Scott, finally, I'm on a antiplatelet medication that makes your platelets not stick to the stent. The problem with that is that's not just for the stent. That means your platelets don't do their job in the rest of your body too. So you have to watch out for bruising or internal bleeding, or if you cut yourself, it takes a long time to actually stop the bleeding. So the job that the med is doing to help you recover and stay alive and not cause another blood clot is also potentially causing other problems. But that's unfortunately what some meds do. Hopefully this is a thing that we can get off of sometime, but this is probably a forever med. And those are things that you have to mentally and emotionally accept and kind of and do. So I'm still in certainly the early stages of all this, and they say it takes about 5 or 6 months to really get what your strength was prior back, right? To kind of get that vigor and that get to itness and really kind of that energy. So I'm a little lower energy. I don't walk around like a zombie. I feel pretty good. I purposely take it slow, but I'm sort of in a lower gear for now. And you rest when you need to rest. And but I've been a lot more active in the last couple of weeks, and I try to go on great walks. I got back in the pool. I like to swim around a little bit. I don't kill it like I was during kind of like my fitness challenge or my activity challenge, because swimming was my thing. I swam like 5 days a week during the 2 months. And
Wow.
I'm no Olympic swimmer. I get in there and I have different workouts, but a pool is a great workout.
Oh, swimming's great. It's one of the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah, what's great about a pool is you can go whatever speed. Just moving in the water is beneficial. So, just get in there and doggy paddle around or stay in one place. It doesn't matter. It's really good for you. So I've enjoyed getting back in the pool a little bit and moving around because I'm working, and I go on walks, and sometimes the walks get longer. I've been fortunate. I've gotten to play golf a couple times, and just very recently, which is my thing. And that was sort of the conversation I had with myself. I was like, hey, man, you got to get your shit together, get out of this place, because I was hitting my irons really well. And I was like, don't go out like this, because I would have been really pissed, because I'm hitting my irons as well as I ever have right now. But so those are the things you have conversations with yourself in an ICU.
Well, one thing, if there's any positives to be taken from this event, is you had to be overwhelmed by the overwhelming amount of goodwill and loving words and support you received when this happened. I've seen on a lot of social platforms, when things happen to celebrities, there's always some level of outpouring of emotion and people caring about what happened. But with you, it seemed to be genuine, sincere. The amount of love, the people were really, really cared about your well-being. And I think that speaks volumes about what kind of person you are and who you are, in the community. So So tell me, after a couple days and you start to feel a little bit more like yourself, and as the healing process, did you sit back and take a look at all those wonderful, kind, encouraging words that people were sending your way?
It certainly had an impact that is almost hard to, I don't want to say accept, because I certainly accept it and I appreciate it. It's hard to reconcile the level of how, like, you expect, like, your friends and your family and people that, you know, engage with you to give a shit, you know, to actually, you know, say something. I did not expect, or, you know, there's no preparing for it, but, you know, I certainly did not. I was blown away by the level and the massive, you know, response that it got in a short time. And it was just, it flowed in, and it was just, I think it was something that actually helped me get out of the ICU, number one, because it certainly makes you feel good, but you also don't feel worthy of that, you know, for it'll be like, well, it's just, I don't do anything special. I'm just me. But maybe it is sort of something of how, you know, you walk around and how you interact with other people, or, you know, how you treat other people, or how you want to be treated. And I can't, I mean, it's still coming in. I mean, daily on, you know, my socials or texts or, you know, email, people hit me up and, hey man, I just want to check how, you know, how you doing? You know, you're looking better. I saw that last update. You look better than your last update. You know, still need to be around, and all this stuff. And as the subject, I would love to be an observer of that, and it just makes you feel good. As the subject, it makes you feel just blown away, and it's almost hard to kind of quantify or you know, reconcile, if that's the right word. And I'm still dealing with that. You know, you're dealing with the physical thing, the emotional thing, the actual event, but then you know when you're somewhat of a public figure, or have people that, you know, that you don't really know that are tied into your life, that have communication with you, and they let you know how they feel. I mean, I don't know what to say except for that it's certainly appreciated, and it's blowing me away. And the response has all been nothing but, you know, supportive, and, you know, please don't go anywhere.
Well, I know,
and it's incredible.
I know that I've done a lot of reading on stuff. I've been roaming this earth for a half a century now, and I've done my share of crazy shit. And one of my most prized possessions, Mr. Gower, is my set of lobby cards of the Monster Squad, which I have right here. Yes. That I got. I went to LaSalle Military Academy, and I cut school for the day to go see the Monster Squad, and the movie was just such a blast for me as a kid. And Fright Night and Monster Squad were 1 and 2 for me as a kid growing up as my favorite horror movies of all time. And to give you an idea of what that film meant to me, it just meant the world to me. And now here I am as a middle-aged man, and you are kind and gracious enough to sit here and talk to a buffoon like me. And that's why people throughout the entire world and the community have nothing but wonderful things to say about you, because you're sincere, you're a genuine human being, you're kind, and we're all want nothing but the best for you because you deserve it. And not many people who've achieved some of the wonderful things that you achieved act the way you do. So please, we're all saying this as the community from our hearts. Take care of yourself, because you're loved and you're awesome. And I'm beyond glad to see that you're well.
I appreciate that, and
the fact that you're earnestly sharing it. That's what it is. They're earnestly sharing about.
You know, for someone who usually has no loss of words, that, you know, it's you know, besides just saying, you know, the cliche thank you and I appreciate it, it's hard for me to actually you know, wrap my head around that, and but I'm enjoying trying. And you know, it was an interesting thing. Two different people said some fascinating stuff about this perspective. Mm-hmm. And that most people don't get. And one was, well, this is amazing, like, because they've been following the outpouring, and he said, you know, really what you what you get to see in situations like this that most people don't, because they're either not known or they don't have a public following, or celebrity, whatever it is. You get to see the people. It's really, you get to see people that give a rip, but you almost get to see who would come to your funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was very interesting. And luckily, he was, like Kevin has got to come out the other side, and because we had minutes, right, and so we would have all been going to each other's funeral, and that was an interesting perspective. And then my main man Henry McComas, who made Wolfman's Got Nards with me, he's a hip hop head, and he's my go-to hip hop resource as a big oafy white guy from Alaska. He is my go-to hip hop encyclopedia, and he's amazing. And he said, there's a new thing in the there's a thing in the scene. It's Get Your Flowers Now. Sort of like a lyric, and I was like, what does that explain? And it's basically the same thing. You get to know who would bring flowers to your funeral, and that's heavy stuff. It's stuff that you could kind of romanticize when we're 25 and write goopy stuff about, or write a song about it or something. But then as you get older, you start feeling that we're all kind of in kind of that same age, and your parents are getting older if they're not already gone. And I went through that. I went through losing my dad in 2014, and actually watching it happen, which is glad I was there, but not recommend. It's a weird thing. And then you're like, well, wait, you go, oh shit, I'm next. You're like, if my dad's gone, I'm next. Like there's a line here. Like I'm next in line.
Yeah, well, when parents are gone, there's a whole nother world opens up. I still have my dad, thankfully.
Oh,
but
good.
my mother, but he's like 94, doing great. But
Awesome.
You're right about that. When you lose a parent, or certainly both, you're your own parent now.
Yeah, it starts to get real, and things start to hit home, and you have different perspectives. And this was certainly, just turning 40, 45, losing a parent or losing your friend's parents, that's a paradigm shift in your life. But then when something like this happens that really knocks you, says, hey, you got a different, paradigm shift coming, then that's a reality check. And you start to make different lists, or other things are like, I'm not going to worry about that today. I think I'm going to narrow down, like, what am I giving a shit about right now, to a few things. And that's the weird thing. Stress has a lot to do with it. It's a very easy thing to blame on. It's a real thing. I've never been a stressed out person. I don't feel like I'm ever stressed out. I've always pushed my body physically, so stress, like, that's how you deal with that. Like, whether it's training for this or training for that, I always push myself physically, and physical stress is different than emotional stress. There's been some stuff that we've all gone through in the last 18 months or so, that have added some different type of stuff. I'm dealing with other stuff internally that's not necessarily out there on the Wikipedia page right now. And there's just things you deal with, and then you get hit with something like this. Did this lead up to that, or did this is just part of that? These are all things that it's been 10 weeks now, so I don't have all the answers. But you just got to kind of deal with what you're dealing with. And I'm concentrating on the things that I enjoy, that I can have an impact on currently, and getting cleared to go enjoy the things that I've been invited to go to. And luckily for that, it seems a little much. It probably is, but again, I push myself. I'm the guy. My wife made a joke. I'm the guy that walked into his own heart attack into the hospital. I was like, "Hey, I'm having a heart attack," and I get October is always a big month, and there's some things that I've been invited to, and I didn't want to pass up, and that's why I've strived in the last month or two to be active, to feel better, to and kind of like my testing results and my doctor's appointments. I've had minimal, but I've had a few, and they all look positive, and I get to go and do these things. So October is like a big month right now. It is normally for me and Ryan and Ashley if we're doing Monster Squad stuff or Wolfman's Got Nards promotion or something. But I've got a jam-packed October that I'm currently looking forward to, and so I'm really hoping that everything works out well and I get to go enjoy it and get back out there into the mix. I might be a little less animated when I'm hanging out with everybody or at these appearances or getting to sign stuff or take photos, but don't take that personally if you have to be there. I'm just in a different gear right now. I'm a little slower and trying not to push it so hard, at least until the end of the year. But there's a couple conventions coming up. There's some festivals I get to go to that I've been invited to, and so I'm enjoying the fact that right now I'm planning to go to those and have the opportunity because. Those are the fun things to get out and meet the people. And, podcasts are great. I love podcasting because if you haven't tell, I can talk my ass off. And I hardly ever stop. But, being out and around people and being at a festival or being at a convention or being at a screening or something, that's a whole other experience. And we haven't been able to do that, for the last year and a half. And now that, if the event's done right and you feel good and confident to go, I was looking forward to that anyway, but then I had this heart attack thing and had to make sure I was okay to go. And so right now it looks like green lights and I'll be able to go enjoy these shows in Louisville and Manchester, England. And
England's the best. You must have been there before, I bet, right?
I've been to the UK a handful of times. I've never spent time in Manchester. I'm looking forward to this show. We have a huge fan base in the UK. It's literally our second best fan base on the planet.
I can relate to that.
They might rival some of I bet you our UK fans would.
They're pretty awesome.
And then Monster Mania in Philadelphia at the end of October. CJ, that's awesome. Thanks. So hopefully October is fun. It's gonna wear my ass out, I think, but I think I'll take it slow in between days. So hopefully I get to see a ton of people out there.
Well, I'm going to right now on Halloween night, which is a Sunday this year, at 10 p.m. If you are at a show, if you could sneak off to your room or your hotel room, or if you're not at a show, that night we're having a never before heard interview with Vincent Price, the legendary Vincent Price.
Holy cow!
And we are going to have some of the, and when I say some of the biggest names in pop culture and especially the horror genre on that episode. We're going to play segments of the interview of Mr. Price and my brother Bob, and I even asked him a question or two as a little kid. And then we're going to discuss Vincent Price's answers because these are things that no one's ever heard or knew about Vincent Price before. If you're free that night, I would be honored to have you on that episode if you are free on Halloween night.
I will put it on the calendar. I'll set reminders for the days leading up to that, and if I can make it, I will, and if I can't, I won't. But I'll make it up for you. But thanks for the invite. I will certainly put that on the list.
Yes, that's going to be one of the horror events of the year because I mean Vincent Price is just incredible. Yeah. This whole it's almost like there's something that should be created called George Bailey syndrome, and when a major event happens to you. And it makes you reflect and realize how many people's lives you've touched and how important you are to so many. So I hope you really look at that in the positive way that you should, because the outpouring of love is almost like something I've never seen before. With that being said, Andre, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're always welcome on this show. I didn't really want to talk about just your health the entire episode, but because I think
we can pivot. You can ask us questions. It's fine. We just got on good stories going.
Did Ryan quit smoking after this?
Ryan had actually quit smoking a number of years ago, which was awesome. I don't know if he sneaks one now again. I haven't seen him in a while. He may sneak one now.
Again. On the interviews with us, brother.
Yeah,
6 months ago.
It's he does. Yeah, but the number of years he switched, he got rid of it cold, went back a little bit. And that was a while ago. I don't know if he's still, back on them, but I don't know. He and I actually haven't hung out person to person. We just on the phone each other, but I get to see him in a couple weeks. So I will ask him. I will tell him that you asked. For sure.
One Monster Squad question, and then I will, because these are the things you answer all the time, and I'm sure you're sick of it. But what was it like to work with that director? Fred Decker, as I recall, correct?
Yeah, Fred Decker.
Okay.
You know, I think it was an experience unlike, you know, anybody else has with a lot of other directors for a number of reasons. It was Fred's second feature. He had just done his first feature the year before. This one got greenlit. Fred, and I think, you know, with Fred writing the script with Shane Black and then Fred directing, one of the reasons that Monster Squad is kind of landed with the kids that see it is that Fred and Shane weren't too much older than we were trying to tell the story. And so everything had heart and authenticity. And Fred approached his management of the set and shooting this movie in that same way. And so we sort of had this guy that we knew was the director. He was the authority figure. We needed to listen to what he wanted to be done. And he was that in between kind of buffer to us and the rest of this giant production. And we focused on him, but he related to us and made sure that he just wasn't this kind of, you know, guy in a chair that was barking out orders. I mean, he really got in there and related with us as kids. He related, you know, what was going on, what he wanted to see. And I think one of my favorite bits in Wolfman's Got Nards, we have some amazing behind the scenes footage of us shooting the Monster Squad, because they were actually making a documentary of us making this movie that no one ever saw until they see the VTS footage from Wolfman's Got Nards. And there's the segment with Fred working with Ashley about looking at Frankenstein going off into limbo, and it's just this really touching moment of a director with an actor. And the director happened to be 25 making his second feature, and the actor was a 5-year-old girl. But that that moment almost encapsulates how everything was, you know, with Fred, you know, for those, you know, months that we were working on that movie. And I think it just made it more enjoyable, and was a great learning experience.
Now, you were all a bunch of kids, the Monster Squad, the kids themselves, but you had some wonderful character actors in that film too. Stephen Mock, Tom Noonan, Duncan Regehr. I don't know if
Tom Noonan.
Mary Ellen Trainor was in it, as I recall, right?
Yeah, she was she was my mother. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she was your mom. Now, were any of those older actors at the time, were any of them especially giving to you as a child actor and trying to take you under their wing, or show you the ropes, or you know teach you along the way?
I mean, I think they all were, you know, to an extent of what their purpose was. With like Stephen and Mary Ellen, they were your parents. They happened to be real life parents, so they knew, you know, what it was like to be a mom and a dad to young kids. And I had parents, so I know what, you know, parents are supposed to be, but we also knew the story and where there was issues with this family. And I think there's two great scenes that are actually, you know, split between Phoebe and Emily, Ashley and Mary Ellen Trainor, as a mother-daughter scene. And then I think one of my favorite scenes in the movie, a lot of the favorite scenes in the movie I'm not in, which is totally cool. But one of my favorite scenes that I am in is between me and Steven, when we're in the bathroom just talking about like father-dad stuff. And then he's got to leave, but then I end up he comes and watches the movie on the roof with me, you know, at the drive-in. I think those are all really important things that they're so simple and they're not like crammed down your throat, but everybody related, you know, to those moments. But Steven himself, you know, veteran actor, seasoned guy, really, you know, awesome dude, still is, and still really cares about you. And, you know, this is 34 years later or 35 years later than we actually shot this movie. And you can sit around and Steven really still cares about you, and vice versa. Mary Ellen Trainor, of course, passed away a number of years ago, I think 5 years ago, which is just suck. But on the flip side of that, people like Duncan, who's absolutely incredible as Dracula, and Tom Noonan, people always ask, what was it like to work with Tom Noonan? And I say, I have no idea. I never worked with Tom Noonan. I worked with Frankenstein's monster. And because both of those, Tom took it to a different extent because he's super method and was never out of character. But we also never saw either one of those actors out of makeup or out of character. during shooting. So we never had lunch with those guys or had a breakfast burrito and hung out and talked about the game the night before or anything. And Duncan approached that on purpose. Tom does it normally, and that just lends to a much longer day for those guys because they've got to come in, they've got to be on the side that Tom Noonan had 3 hours of makeup or whatever to get into that Frankenstein's makeup stuff, and then 3 hours to get out of it. I mean, that's a long day, and that's a testament to what real actors do. Even if it's what some people see as a campy kids movie. I don't think there's any camp in Monster Squad, but people, some people call it's, oh, you played a monster in a campy kids movie. I was like, did you watch what these guys did?
Yeah. No.
Did you see kind of like underneath like what these people are doing? Did we do a good job as the kids? Yeah, I think everybody's great in this movie, and they say their lines and they're funny, and we're the little rascals running around town saving the world. But we get, we have more fun with it. We don't take ourselves, too seriously. We're 13, 14 years old, and we don't, we're professional and we're good at what we try to be good at what we're doing. But these guys are consummate performers, and that's a discipline to really to go at it like that. And the result, probably two of the best monster performances, and looks, and definitely probably, I think he's in the top 3 of all time. Dracula's definitely in the top 5, and no doubt in all time top 10. But he's just got a presence, when he's a regular guy.
I would say only Lugosi and Langella were better than Duncan Reguera's Dracula,
yeah,
and
so
I think that's fair.
Give him that third spot, and
Yeah,
I think it's
absolutely.
totally legit.
Yeah.
But Duncan has that presence. He's an amazing. He's an artist, not only a performer and actor. But he's actually like an artist. He paints. He has his own vintage of wine. He sells art books of his own art, and he sells paint. It's like he's like a guy from a different century.
Yeah.
Literally, that's why it worked to play Dracula. And he just has this presence, and I always say he has this regalness about him that just commands everything that's going on around him, and he still does to this day. And when you see him in the documentary, it's the same guy. This presence takes you back.
He reminds me of Julian Sands, if you know who that guy is.
Yeah, I
They're
do.
very similar. Yeah. Did you see Tom Noonan in The Blacklist a year or so ago? It was one of the better episodes.
Oh, I haven't watched Blacklist in a while, so that's probably a show that I'm going to be like, I'm going to go finish out Blacklist and knock out like 3 seasons. But whenever he's on an episode, he's good. I think I saw him on an episode of SVU. And it's just like, oh, there's Tom. Yeah, he's going to be creepy. He's going to be good. He's going to have something wrong with something. And he's just really, really good. Whether it's a giant, and like I said, you asked, and I never worked with Tom Noonan. I didn't meet Tom Noonan until like the movie came out. Mm-hmm. And when we were shooting, I didn't get to see this actor, and so I went to my video store in my neighborhood and rented Manhunter to see what this guy looked like.
Wow.
While we were shooting Monster Squad. And then I wish I hadn't done that because he scared the shit out of me. And
Even scarier.
Francis Dollarhide is probably one of the top villains of any crime movie that has ever been shot. And he's absolutely skin crawling, in that movie. It makes your skin crawl. As this sensitive kind of guy that just wants to be loved, but it's just the sociopath. And you're like, wow, he does that really easy. Like, he's so good. But they were great, and their presence is indelible.
Now, as a young man, you started acting really early.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any actors or any performer that you looked at growing up that heavily inspired you as far as how you performed on screen?
I don't know if it's an actor or performances that that you wanted to emulate or mimic. But one performer that I've just loved his style ever since the first thing I ever saw, because my dad was a big fan, I became a big fan. And then there's a little Monster Squad tie-in with Clint Eastwood.
Okay.
I love Clint Eastwood. I also grew up watching a ton of old stuff, so I saw old movies and old TV shows, and I saw new stuff too, but I also enjoyed old stuff. And this is before cable. This is before streaming. You could catch something and be lucky enough to see an old movie. I grew up watching cool movies with my dad that he grew up with, so I got to see that, things my mom saw. So you're influenced by that. But Clint Eastwood, I always loved Clint Eastwood, whether it was a Western or Dirty Harry. And at the very end of Monster Squad, the line, is going to tell me what's going on here. And then Sean steps up and grabs his business card and says, well, we can. And the general says, who are you? And I say, we're the Monster Squad. So I think I stepped up there. This is on the lot. This is one of the last shots that we do in the movie, and or in the production. And I think I stepped up and did it really Valley Kid, LA cheesy or something. And we did it a couple of times. And Fred was like, we're going to cut. Came over to the side. He's like, all right, let's try it a different way. Let's just try it a different way. Don't mimic, don't impersonate, but if Clint was handing him his card, what would it be like? And I was like, okay, yeah, dude, to be a little more Clint Eastwood here. And this is between me and Fred, and I stepped up, and that's the take that was in the movie. I wasn't trying to be Clint Eastwood. I just wasn't probably trying to be as cheesy as I was on the other takes. And I think what that was a great learning moment or directing moment from a young director named Fred, that how do you relate to your young actor that he's going to connect with to get him out of his rut of what he just did these last 4 cheesy takes in. Because I probably was like, we're the Monster Squad. Or something really cheesy like, hey, bro, who do you think we are? And that's the take we use, and it's just level enough of having a little of attitude, but also being vulnerable. But hey, we just saved the world, so eat it, And it was, I think it was just subtle enough and level enough, and but I remember that vividly. Conversation with Fred on the Warner Brothers, Main Street Town Square lot. So that's cool. But I grew up, around. I work with a lot of amazing people. We probably joked last time. Everybody, references my, resume or IMDb credits, and they're like, "You did everything," and I was like, "Yeah, well, there's a reason I did everything, because my television trajectory as a kid, instead of being the kid that did one show for 6 seasons that everybody knows, I did 6 shows that went 1 season." And but so that sucks in its own right, but it also, I appreciate that more now as an adult, because that afforded me the opportunity to have a lot more experiences and work with a lot more people. And when you look down the list of people that I've actually worked with, it's insane. And I actually I wrote down, I put it out there as a question to my other fellow kid actors and my fans, and I was like, I don't know. I'm trying to determine if I have the raddest on-screen dad list of all time, or where does it rank? And I ranked them, and everybody's like, "No, you win." And look, Steven's on there. Stephen Mock's on there because he's awesome. Not as well known as some others, but just as awesome. Peter Scolari is one of my favorite human beings on the planet, and a TV show with Peter, who from Bosom Buddies and Newhart, and Richard Mazur. That's my dad in a TV movie. Ricky Nelson was my dad on a TV show, which was an awesome TV show that I did with Michael Zinberg and Randy Zisk for NBC called Fathers and Sons, and it was about 4 boys and their dads. And it was a really unique show. We hadn't seen this type of show before. It was a little ahead of its time, I think. And we shoot the pilot, and Ricky Nelson is returning to television. He hasn't done television, in 30 years or something. Mm-hmm. And he's an American icon, and he plays my father. And we shoot the pilot. The show gets picked up for 5 more episodes as a mid-season replacement. If that does well, then it'll be a series next year. Well, we shoot the pilot, and in between shooting the pilot and the couple months that happened to do the next of the show, he dies in a plane crash. So that kind of tanked the star power of that show. And the other dad on that show was Merlin Olsen, so that was awesome. But he wasn't my dad. And then I have, then it goes to George C. Scott as my dad.
Wow.
And then it goes to, and then it goes to William Shatner. So yeah, I've had a pretty badass influence of being a kid actor of people that I've literally worked with and across from. but also actors that you see in TV and movies as a kid that you grew up with. And I've never tried to I'm a big Redford fan of like how he delivers stuff. He's very Redford in all this stuff. I just like his style. The Sting and The Natural, some of my favorite movies of all time. But I also grew up, Paul Newman's fantastic. And Paul Newman was a big part of my life growing up because my sister is the little girl in The Towering Inferno. She's the little girl that Paul Newman saves in the movie. So that's my sister. So I was actually on that set as like a 1-year-old, or like a 10-month-old or something. So I was actually on that set with all those amazing actors, but I grew up watching that movie constantly, because my sister's in it. And there's a lot of great people in that movie too, but Paul Newman stuck out with me. So I became a Paul Newman fan. And it was funny. I was cheating on you. I was on another podcast prior to you tonight, but it wasn't live and it's totally different. But I just watched The Hustler. I was watching The Hustler with my mom last night. It's a great movie. But you realize how dark and depressing that movie is. It's a very depressing movie. It's a very dark movie, but a great movie. And I also realized that movie is sort of kind of the nexus. If you bring my sister and myself into our entertainment and film and TV world, because my sister was saved from a burning high-rise by Paul Newman, and the other two leads in The Hustler is Piper Laurie, who played my aunt in an episode of The Twilight Zone, and George C. Scott, who played my dad for 2 seasons on a show called Mr. President. And I was like, wow, I literally know everybody in this movie.
It's my favorite Scrooge too. George C. Scott.
He's a whole other. He really is a whole other thing. There's no comparing him to anything, whether he's being funny or being George C. Scott or being Patton. And he's like that in real life. He commands the room, and he's a very big presence. And I wish I remembered more of day-to-day stuff of being around him. I remember some things. There were certain things that you'll never forget because they were burned into the back of my brain. It's a story. I don't know. Did we tell this last time with George? I learned a big acting lesson from George C. Scott.
I got to hear this.
Yeah, it wasn't a nice little side. It wasn't a nice little side conversation. It was a very public display of being very embarrassed and scared shitless.
Wow.
The first season of Mr. President was a comedy, but it was a single camera film. So we did the first season, and then we transitioned to 3-camera videotape live audience, and they brought Madeline Kahn into the show. But so it became a sitcom after that. But when you're doing single camera and you have your kind of establishing shot or your 2-shot, and then you do coverage, you're doing the close-ups. When the other person is on camera, you're standing very close to the lens box, for an eye line. And apparently George was getting his close-up done of the scene between me and him, and I apparently was like swaying like this a little bit or moving. And he stopped everything and motherfucked me for like 5 minutes. And just gave it to me. He was teaching me in a very brusque manner and with foul language, and I was just scared. The point was me to not move, and he achieved his goal because I didn't move for about 48 hours. I just stood stone straight. And so that was something you learn as an actor is when the other person's doing their close-up, don't move around or be distracted. And I learned that lesson the hard way.
It's funny.
But he's absolutely right.
It's funny because a lot of the celebrities from the past generations, they held themselves differently. And when you were in their presence, you felt something different than of when you meet the celebrities of today. And I don't mean any disrespect to the celebrities of today. I mean, when I was in a room as a kid with Vincent Price, I knew I was in a room with Vincent Price. I mean, he was enormous, and he was bigger than life, and he had a voice like you've never ever heard before from another human being. And when I was real little, my mom got me to meet Bing Crosby a couple times. And Bing Crosby spoke in such a way that when he just spoke regular sentences like he was talking to you, it sounded like he was singing them, because he just had like the most beautiful, angelic, like, "Hey, Dave, get me some Kool-Aid." It just sounded cool.
Right.
And-
Just
and-
a melodic delivery.
Yeah, and it was funny because as an adult, I've met a lot of contemporary big stars, and none of them seem to have that command, that the command of a room that the stars of yesteryear seems to have. Unless I'm just being an old fart and a dickhead, which is totally possible. But it seems like a lost art, the art of being a movie star or a superstar.
I don't disagree, and I
Okay.
think we probably all have opinions here in the room, but I think you're right in that regard, because the public viewed them different, but they also had a different type of responsibility than stars do today, especially if you got into some level of stature or power or ability, because it seems like we have a million celebrities today.
Right.
And we do. There's a lot. But there was less back then, but there was still a lot. Like there was still a lot of celebrities, in each decade, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s.
It's the
But there was
pipeline and
a-
where you get to see them. The
Yeah.
pipeline now is 24/7
Right.
on your phone. In the 70s and 80s and 90s, it literally was maybe TV, maybe a magazine, maybe a newspaper article, maybe a talk show, but you weren't inundated.
Right.
Now you could be burnt out on somebody in 2 weeks.
And there used to be some mystery about them because they weren't all over the place.
Gravitas.
Yeah.
Right. So Scott, you just stole the word out of my. You stole the word gravitas out, and a gravity to them. Because I think they get to that gravitas by being the individuals and performers that they are, that rise to the top. So it's a natural, innate thing, and then it becomes, bolstered, or and part of the machine, and it becomes part of who they are. But they got to that because they were the people that rose to the top. I think we have a lot of people now that are big stars that there's probably 8 or 9 or 10 dozen people that could replace them, and you would know the difference. There's no replacing George C. Scott. There's no replacing, Barbara Stanwyck. There's no replacing Jane Stewart. There's no another personal example is I did this. It's great. That used to be on every year, up until a few years ago. But a Christmas movie, a TV Christmas movie called The Man in the Santa Claus Suit, and I was like 5 years old. And the part of my other dad list, it was Burt Convy. Burt Convy was my dad in this movie, and my mom was Brooke Bundy, who was amazing. And but it was this movie about this guy who has 3. It's a kind of a tied-in kind of storyline type of thing around this guy who runs a costume shop, and all 3 of the male leads need Santa suits, and this costume shop is run by Fred Astaire. And Fred Astaire is in this movie when you find out he's actually Santa Claus, and so he affects these people's lives.
It's a great movie.
And I never met Fred Astaire until like the screening of this, like kind of the network kind of like, screening of this movie in a theater. Even though it was a TV movie, they had a screening of it. And I met Fred Astaire at the end of the movie as like a 6-year-old. And even then you knew that this guy, and he was way at the end of his career, in 1977 or 79. But you still could tell that this man was something special.
Yep.
And then so that makes you want to go back and watch, like Swing Time or something, and see was like
Holiday Inn. His
Fred
best
and Ginger,
movie.
like these people are insane. Look at the talent of these human beings. Because like I said, they don't get to that stature unless they have this talent that got them there. And if you're in the presence of a Heston or a Robert Mitchum, or you're like, there's a power here. There's a force going on. And I got to experience some of that with some really cool people personally.
No, I can't imagine.
And it makes a difference. Like it's not just being like meeting George C. Scott at a thing and getting an autograph. I don't think you probably sign an autograph. He'd probably tell you to go fuck yourself and leave. But it's working and being intimate, with not intimate in in a weird way, but
Right.
intimate in close quarters with these people and learning. And like that set of Mr. President was amazing because, like I said, when we transitioned, they brought Madeline Kahn into the show. She's a whole other talk about a gravity thing. She's like a comet.
She was a
flying
very
around.
big star. She was one of the
Oh.
biggest female stars of her day.
Yeah, but she had a
TV
ninja
and
thing
movies.
of what she did. It was unbelievable. And Young Frankenstein's is my favorite genre movie, even though it's horror comedy. But that's my favorite. Is my favorite, and she's phenomenal in it. And she's this whole other presence. And then we had George C. Scott, and we had Conrad Bain, who was the other lead of the show, and all these great names. And they would sit around and tell stories about doing Broadway and off Broadway and European tours of plays and doing this movie that you've never heard of. And you're just sitting around as a 14-year-old listening to these stories going, these are really cool. I have no idea what they're talking about, but I'm sort of interested, but I'm sort of bored. So I have no idea what they're talking about. But those are the things you wish that you had recorded.
Yeah.
But it also lent you to go watch other stuff and see, these other things or things that they were talking about. And, there are some things that you do remember because some of them are embarrassing. And so here's, and that has to do with Madeline Kahn and conversation about circumcision, which is still indelible in a 14-year-old's mind. And George C. Scott, telling about he was doing a one man solo play in the round, and his fly broke. And so he's like, so I'm doing this 30-minute soliloquy with my dong hanging out of my pants. And I'm like, why didn't you just turn and zip it up? And he's like, it's in the round. You can't do that. It's in the round. And you're like, I was like, what did you do? He's like, I did the play with my dong out. What did you think I did? I'm like, all right.
Sounds like the great William Sadler, who was on this show, did a show, and right on stage he sneezed, and when he sneezed, a little bit of shit came out, and he had to do the rest of the show with shit in his pants. And he told this story on this show.
Oh, he did, and he said he leaned against the piano the whole time.
Shit happens. Now I'm going to ask you about two.
The show must go on.
Before I let you go, I want to ask you about two very, very obscure actors you've probably never been asked about before. And I don't even know if you got to work with them particularly because it was in TV shows. And please forgive me, I don't remember either one of these episodes if you were actually interacted with these actors. But did you ever work with William Daniels on St. Elsewhere?
I did one scene of one episode of St. Elsewhere. It was not with William Daniels. It was with David Morse.
Okay.
It was a really quick scene, but I remember being around William Daniels.
Okay.
And watching that show. I was super young. I was really young when that was. That was an amazing show because that had a huge cast.
Right.
They had a huge cast and kind of set the primer for big hospital shows going forward, which led into ER, which is my favorite show, which actually shot on the same lot. But I remember William Daniels, and also William Daniels was the voice of Kit.
Right.
On
Right.
Knight Rider. And I did an episode of Knight Rider, but William Daniels was not around.
Okay. I loved William Daniels because as a kid, I saw him on Broadway in 1776. And then he did 1776, the film.
Yeah.
And he's just one of my favorite actors. So I was curious about that.
No, and he's one of those guys that you don't realize is actually really good.
Yeah. And the other one, did you get to work with Christopher Hewitt on Mr. Belvedere?
Yes. Briefly, that was a great. I remember this week very well because you're a kid. I think I was 16. This was the first TV show that I drove myself to work. And it was kind of you by yourself. So you didn't need didn't need a parent with you, and that was I got to drive myself to Mr. Belvedere set, but. The opening scene to that show, I had known Bryce is a couple years younger than I am, but when you're a kid in the business, you kind of know everybody. It's a small group. And ironically, on the show, recurring Seth Green was on the show as a recurring character, as sort of like the bad kid, the bad influence kid. And I had known Seth a couple years prior, because he had to come out and screen test for Monster Squad and didn't get the role, but then he ended up moving to LA and becoming Seth Green, and we are all better for it. But yeah, in Mr. Belvedere, it was the scene where I come in. I'm supposed to play this new kid in at school that moved there, and I become friends with Wesley, the Bryce.
Yes,
Beckham.
Bryce Beckham. Yeah.
Yeah, and Tracy Wells was a year or two older than I am, and Rod Stone was like old. He was like 17 or so. He was like 19 years old. Like he was ancient, and not attainable. Like he wasn't powerful, but they were all super nice. And the first scene, the cold open of the show, it's him and Christopher Hewitt, and then I come in, and we have a brief interaction, and then the rest of the episode was just me and Bryce. I wish that character had returned as a recurring character on the show, because that would have been really cool. Because I played this like kid that comes into town, and he's like, I guess his dad is wealthy and has money, and this kid moves around, but he can't read. He doesn't know how to read. He's like in 8th grade and doesn't know how to read or something. And so it was very interesting, and I thought it was a neat episode, and I would have loved to come back to that show.
That was a really hidden gem, a great show.
Now, because
Bob Euchre's hilarious.
Yeah.
Say it again, Joe.
I'm sorry, I got to ask a question because Seth Green was brought up. Have you done Robot Chicken?
No. And what's funny about that is Seth's one of the most giving and helpful people that's in this industry. He's a really genuine guy, and I've known him since we were 13. Like I said, he had to come out he was like a casting choice for Monster Squad, and I had to spend a day with him to like get to know him. And he was reading for the role of Patrick, and I had already been cast as Sean. Even though I never auditioned for Sean. I think we talked about that. I never auditioned for Little Sean. I auditioned for Rudy. But then they just cast me as Sean, which was super amazing. But I met Seth and his mom when they came out for the weekend, and we had to spend all day together and like go to a movie and have dinner and lunch and like all this stuff. And he ended up not getting the role. But shortly after that, he moved out to LA and, like I said, became Seth Green. And we're all better for it. I always followed up with that. But he's so helpful and giving. He has a great interview on Wolfman's Got Nards because he tells his story about wanting to be and auditioning for it and not getting it. But that audition and that 3rd or 4th screen test that he flew out to LA really impacted him and his family, and they made the move. So it's sort of tied in. But you asked about Robot Chicken, which is one of the best shows on TV. I think the Emmys or the creative Emmys are tonight. And I think they're nominated yet again. But I moved back out to LA in 2014 for the purpose of doing a spec pilot for a show that I created with a concept with a couple other guys. And I revamped it and redid it and put it together and actually shot the spec pilot. I spent a ton of money, built a set, and it's the setup to this concept of a TV show that kind of centers around former child stars. And there's a line in it without giving away the concept, because like no one's ever seen this except for studios and stuff. It was at Lionsgate for a year and it just never got developed. But it's about this secret organization that has been cognitively conditioning the minds of young performers to be secret operatives in their underground organization for 85 years. And it goes all the way back with history. And you don't know you're in this organization until you get activated. And there's a knock on my door. I'm me. Everybody plays themselves in this show. And the door opens and so I do the spec, and I only had one guy in mind that I wanted to do this spec pilot because it's only 2 people. There's 3 people in this spec pilot sequence. And I open the door and it's Seth. And sort of the lines of something, and I go, Seth, what are you doing what are you doing here? And he's dressed in like a black suit with sunglasses, and he takes them. It's very cliche, and he goes, I can't explain, but you need to come with me. It's time. And I'm like, where are we going? Like, I'm just playing, like, I'm just stupid, and I don't know what's going on. I'm like, oh, like, is it a party? Like, and he's like, no, it's not a party. And I was like, if it's at the mansion, I'll need to change clothes. Because Seth and I actually, the first time I ever went to the Playboy Mansion, I was hanging out with Seth, and it was during NBA All-Star Weekend. So it's first time I got to go there. So I tied in all the real stuff. And he's like, look, it's something bigger. Like important people are you're meant for something bigger. And what I don't understand is like there's this whole world built beyond, the veil that I don't know about, and he can't tell me about it, but he's trying to get me to come with him. And I was like, bigger than a party? He was like, oh. And I say, am I finally getting to do Robot Chicken? And Seth goes, no, you're not doing Robot Chicken. And I go, damn. And he goes, it's bigger. It's bigger. It's bigger than this. You're meant for something much larger in your life. You just don't know it. It's sort of that jargon. And I go, Family Guy? And it's a really funny sequence. And it's just, and what's happening, there's an episode of Jeopardy going. I was like, look, there's something in your life. You're meant for something bigger. And I'm like, which is very timely right now. I go, host of Jeopardy? And it's just not getting it. And he goes, all right, this happens sometimes. You need convincing. And I turn around and there's a guy in my house, and he starts to fight me, and we have this big 3-minute fight scene. And so my house gets destroyed, and I'm flying all around. It's this awesome sequence. And but I had to throw in that Robot Chicken joke because it was sort of like Seth, I want to do Robot Chicken. Like, how have I not been on Robot? Everybody else we know in the world has been on Robot Chicken. How have I come in and do Robot Chicken? I've been in your office. I've been at Stupid Buddy Studios. It's amazing. Like, I get to walk around. I've seen where you build this. It's great to go there. How have I not done Robot Chicken? So, Joe, no, I haven't done Robot Chicken, and I tried my best on camera to put Seth in a corner to let me do, and it still has not happened. But
is that available anywhere?
Us kids can still dream. Is what?
Is it available anywhere?
Is what available? Oh, that Spec Pilot. I've actually never shown it publicly. I've just done it in pitch meetings, and it's sort of like a competition thing. But what I was thinking of, there was actually one campaign idea to get backing for it, is to actually put it on YouTube and let everybody see it and just be like, we want the show. And I didn't go that route 5 years ago, because as soon as I made that Spec Pilot in the first studio I had a meeting with, they took it. So it was like, and for the next year it was locked up at Lionsgate. Now it may just be a fun thing to get out there and let people see. So I will ask my attorney if that's a good idea to do, and if I'm allowed to do it.
That's awesome.
It's really fun, and it's a great concept. It could still be totally done. I loved doing it. We spent 3 days shooting. I built sets on a stage. I built like a 60-foot long hallway. There's some cool shit in there. It's really, really neat. And Seth makes it. It's just amazing to see him there, and that's how Seth is. Then my whole point of explaining the backstory of it is, I called Seth up, way before I came out to do that concept, and he's like, I love that concept. I love the idea. I'll support you in any way I can. So I got there. I got to the point. I was like, okay, I'm shooting that Spec Pilot. Will you be in it? He's like, yes. Just tell me where to show up. And it was amazing because he showed up for 2 12-hour days.
Wow.
And all he really asked for was, could he have some, water in his dressing room? And he had just got a Tesla model, the model, and he was letting the crew drive his Tesla up and down the street, and I was like, this is Seth, and he's fat. He's great in it, but he was actually nervous because he was like, I haven't been in front of the camera in years. I'm going to screw this up. Because unfortunately, it's like a 9.5-minute segment, and he has all the dialogue. I barely say anything. He's got these big chunks of shit to say because he's explaining the exposition of this entire concept through dialogue that's not syncing. And it's his character doing it. It's him. We all playing ourselves, and he just knocks it out of the park. And,
that sounded very.
That's how awesome Seth is.
That sounded very, very funny. Andre, I don't want to keep you any longer. It's getting very late here on the East Coast.
Yeah, it is.
First off, I want to thank you for being so honest with everybody tonight. This may sound corny, but you might have saved somebody's life by telling about what happened to you. Put people more in tune with their bodies and with their health. It's what makes you awesome. And I just want to thank you again for coming tonight. Is there anything that we didn't hit on or that you want to share with the audience before you call it a night?
No, I mean, again, I appreciate that. It's all I really can do with I appreciate that. I thank you. I'm glad I had awesome people around me, and my friend was with me to get me where I was supposed to be, so I could continue to be here to hang out and shoot the shit with you guys and talk incessantly about stuff. And yeah, I think one thing, if we're gonna take away, pay attention to stuff, go get checked out. It's okay. It's actually really cool if you do that, if you want to go that way. And don't be afraid if something's wrong, because there's a lot of neat stuff out there that can improve things. You don't want to just walk down the street and drop dead. And I think we were talking earlier, like when Scott and I were going back and forth. I'm glad your stuff seems to be, working, better, and you made it through that, because that's just scary. And shout out to Kevin Smith, because similar situation. He has given a lot of information and knowledge to a massive amount of people. So I almost want to just kind of signal boost Kevin, because he has a much bigger reach than I do. I love my reach because it's compacted, but it's got a weight to it. It's like I've got this. My people and friends that follow me and support me are. It's this kind of super awesome, loyal, dense blob of people that I wouldn't trade for anything. And I'd rather have these people in this small ball that it just has this mass to it than just kind of this gigantic nebulous orb of nothingness that a lot of people have. So that means a lot to me, and it's being able to interact with you guys and reach those people as much as I can. So I'm just appreciative of all that, and I try to show that in my own way. And I don't know if it works or not, but I think it does.
No, it absolutely does.
And
where can people find you, Andre?
They can find me
that you're going to be
and your
okay,
comic
yeah.
appearances.
Well, on socials, I'm on Twitter at Andre Gower. I am on Instagram at Andre Gower Official. Please also follow at the Squad Doc, which is Wolfman's Got Nards, the film social handles. Awesome. It's currently, for digital download and purchase or rental in the U.S. and Canada right now on your favorite VOD platform. It's also on Tubi right now. It just got released on Tubi. Nice. Or you can buy the Blu-ray if you're a physical media person on Amazon.com. Our UK fans, I've got announcements coming very shortly, because Wolfman's Got Nards should be in the UK and in your faces soon. So that's awesome. Stay tuned. And Joe, you asked about these conventions. I'm doing Fright Night Film Fest in Louisville, Kentucky, the first weekend in October. The third weekend in October is For Love of Horror in Manchester, England, and that is an amazing guest list on that one. So that is awesome. And then I come back. I'm with Ryan Lambert in Manchester, and I'm with Ryan and the rest of the crew, Ashley and some of the monsters at Monster Mania in Philadelphia, the fourth weekend in October. There's 5 weekends in October this year. And it's the weekend before Halloween. So that's why I said it's got a long, kind of a busy October, but it's doing one of the things that I enjoy the most, and that's getting out and interacting with, our friends and fans and followers, and signing stuff and taking autographs, signing autographs and taking photos with folks. And it's going to be good to get back out there and see everybody.
Absolutely. And again, if you're free on Halloween night, please join us and our crazy cavalcade of maniacs who are going to be on the Vincent Price show. We'd love to.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like I said, I'm putting it in the calendar. And if I am, I'll definitely jump in. If I can't, that means I'm engaged in some other event. I've been invited to like 10 things. I don't know which one I'm choosing yet. But Scott, you mentioned something earlier. I forgot to. I have been on that IMDb boat, so I am cool.
Awesome.
Andre, again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we're all very, very happy that you are healthy and that you are here and that things are getting better. And if you're ever feeling like you're getting in a rut or getting down, fall back on this community, because we all adore you and we all got your back, brother.
Hey man, I appreciate it, and I will take it. I don't take that lightly, and it means a lot to me. And I appreciate you inviting me back. I enjoy coming on, and look forward to the next time. Scott, it was
Ladies
good
and
hanging out with you, man. This was awesome.
Nice
Ladies
meeting
and
you,
gentlemen,
Andre.
Mr. Andre Gower.
Good
Good night, Andre.
What an
Wow.
awesome guy.
I love that guy. He's really, really an inspiration. He's just such a great guy. And the things he said tonight were so poignant and so important to a lot of people. Heart health is not just for middle-aged men. It's not just for older people. It can affect people at any age, at any type of physical condition. It happens to anybody. And for him to be so candid, so blunt, and so charming about it too, makes you understand that it's nothing to fear if you take care of yourself, and if you get proper medical attention, everything will go all right. This is absolutely. Well, thank you, CJ. I think we had a pretty damn good show tonight. Now, next weekend, Joe, you'll be moving, right? So we will not be on the air.
Yes.
Okay.
I am going to be moving. We've actually been moving all month long so far. So Friday
do you have any idea what the date is we return?
Let
Is
me pull
it-
up the handy dandy calendar?
Is it
and
October, or is there still another September left?
It's September 26th.
Okay.
If you like, or
Yeah.
if not, it's October 3rd. The choice
No,
is
it's-
yours.
It's September 26th, because I got some really crazy stuff planned for October. Unless, of course, you're busy on the 26th, and we'll come back in October.
No,
Who knows?
no. Hey, I'm grateful for having next weekend off.
I want to have your moving show, so maybe we'll have that on the 26th.
I hope I have the studio set up.
Well, that would
I
suck.
am not a slacker.
Joe's being a slacker again. I can't believe it. Mr. Schiaffo, is there anything you want to share with our audience before we sign off tonight? We went really late tonight, so I apologize to you, Mr. Schiaffo. I know you're not the night bird.
I actually am a night owl, but I run out of energy after a while. I need to sit in the old man chair and just watch a movie or something.
Yeah.
This was great. He was really wonderful guest, and I appreciate all he shared about the health related, because I could relate. I've had mountains of health problems and heart problems too, and I just want to thank everybody for tuning in and for following what I do as well. And great having Andre on, and it's good to see you two gentlemen. And we're off next week, then we're back. That's what's happening.
Correctamundo.
And
Alrighty.
Well, we got a couple more. I got to hit on. Great show, David, Joe, and Scott. You gents, as always.
Thank you, Mr.
rock.
Brooks. You rock.
Haven for Heroes. Every show gets better.
Thank you. And if anybody is in Orange County, New York, or in Pike County, Pennsylvania, stop by Havens for Heroes. It's one of those great comic book and toy stores. It's just wonderful. And Emmett's a great guy.
One more, Sean Smithson. Great show tonight, brothers. Thank you for being on, Andre. I'm happy you're doing better.
Thank you, Sean. I hope you're doing well too. Joe and I and Scott really think you're awesome, and we hope that you are well. We'll just leave it at that.
And everybody, do not forget to go to David Lee Madison's The End of the Night Facebook page, like and subscribe. As long with yeah, it is late, and I've been moving all week. I do apologize.
You got one other thing you got to get off your chest.
The Indie Escape. Please like and subscribe. Also, my wife and daughter,
Yeah.
they are freaking kicking ass with the Hearts of the Mystic Folk. Please go check them out. They have these awesome scented wax cubes. They're killing it.
With that being said, thank you, everybody. Again, thank you, Mr. Andre Gower, for joining us tonight. You're awesome. You're an icon. You're an inspiration to everybody in the community. And with that being said, remember, no man is a failure who has friends. Good night, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.